So I'm interested to hear your answer to this, because on the Building Bliss podcast we have the 5 pillars of bliss, which is bravery, laughter, inspiration, spark and success. So starting with bravery, can you pick out one moment in your life where you think that you had to be your bravest?
Okay, so it's going back to about 1999, and at that time I was living and working in Dublin, and I'd gone over there because my ex-partner was from Dublin, and the relationship was pretty abusive. Anyway, I left the relationship and tried living on my own for a little while in Dublin, but it wasn't working. I was really ill. I'm type 1 diabetic, so things were really bad on that count. But also, I think my mental health was in pretty bad shape because I'd just come out of an abusive relationship. There was absolutely no access to any of the support that I needed. There was lots of talking therapies, lots of, groups, lots of one-to-one counselling. But because of deafness, I had absolutely no access to it at all. And also, at that time in Ireland, the healthcare system was really, really different, and you had to pay. So I was working in bank. I'm not exactly going to be the richest, so it was really a hard time. Anyway, I made the decision to leave Ireland and come back to England, come back home. And I remember sitting on the ferry as it pulled into Liverpool thinking, have I made the right decision? Because I knew back in England I didn't have any friends, I didn't have any kind of support network, I didn't know anybody, I had no job, I had no money, I had a car full of stuff that was in my life basically in this car. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And then when I was working in Dublin, I was working with a team of deaf people, and they taught me ISL, Irish Sign Language, which is very different from PSL. And I knew that coming back would mean I'd have to start again learning a language to be able to access whatever was going on. And part of me wanted to stay on the ferry and go back. But I didn't, and I think that was a pretty brave moment, just to stick it out, stay there. And then what sealed it for me really was getting in the car, driving off the ferry. My dad was there. He'd come to Liverpool without telling me to meet me off the ferry, and it was just like I think I've made the right decision. And he got in the car with me and we drove home. So yeah, that was, yeah. And I think afterwards, having to be really brave for fighting for access to support services and trying to make new friends, meet new people, trying to learn a new language. So there was all that into it as well. So yeah, I think that was a brave moment.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people would never think about, that you actually effectively learning a new language, having learned Irish Sign Language, to then come over and learn British Sign Language. So is that something you hadn't done when you were younger, learned British Sign Language? It was only once you'd gone to Ireland that you learnt the Irish Sign Language?
Yeah. I was born deaf, as you said, and my entire education mainstream, which meant no sign language whatsoever. I learnt my first sign in Irish Sign Language at 22.
Wow.
And the sign was fax. Going back quite a while, because the office that I worked in, it was actually a bank, it was the Bank of Ireland, and a lot of the deaf employees there communicated with each other using fax. So that was one of the first times I learned fax. Yeah, makes me feel really.
Yeah, I'm going to say that really like dates it, doesn't it? So did you study in Ireland? Is that right?
No. I finished my education in England. My university degree was from Derby. I did media, and that was where I met my ex-partner. And then he asked me to go to Dublin and live with him. And I visited on holiday and things like that, and really liked it. Really liked Dublin. I still really like to go back. I've not been since 1999. But it's a really interesting city, really, you know, I just really like the vibe of it. So I really enjoyed some of my time when I was there, working in the bank, making friends with these deaf people. They were really what got me through, and I'm still friends with them now. We're still in touch. Um, so yeah, after that, being back in England, having to learn BSL and learn it in a way that was really personal, so that I could access support networks and counselling and things like that. Yeah, so that was a big step really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you settle back at home where you are now, or did you go somewhere else in England when you got back from Dublin?
No, I went back to Bake Up,
Yeah.
and I managed to escape. Um, 2003, I think it was, when I met Mark, who's my husband now, and we moved to Darwin, which is near Blackburn, and we lived there for maybe 5 or 6 years, and then Bake Up sucked me back, and I'm back there, and I'm staying there now.
Forever.
Yeah, is that a good thing? I don't know.
Well, you
But
do get good snow, don't you? So if you like snow,
yeah,
it's a
we
good
had
place to
snow
live.
the other day, a couple of inches.
Yeah.
Not enough for a school snow day though. Kids were gutted.
Oh yeah. That used to be, didn't it, at school when we were together? They would be like, oh, they've called the Weir
Yeah.
bus. Everybody's got to leave for Weir.
Yeah, yeah.
So how was that growing up in a mainstream school and basically having to just fit in without any of that support or sign language or any of the things that actually would have made your life easier?
Well, yeah. Looking back, I don't know how I did it.
Mm.
But when I was doing it, it was normal.
You didn't know any different?
No, I really didn't know any different. None of my family signed, nobody signed. It was never even suggested that I learned sign language. I remember maybe GCSE year, I had a lady come every week for half an hour and called herself a teacher of the deaf. What she taught me, I have no idea. But I suppose it was just to check that the hearing aids were working. I had radio aid with the teacher at the microphone, I had the receiver. And she would check that that was working and there weren't any problems with it. But I remember it must have been GCSEs. I learnt the alphabet in BSL as part of some sponsored thing. And I showed the woman and she said, oh, that's very good, but tell you something, don't get involved in all that deaf stuff. Yeah, okay.
Wow.
I'm deaf, but right. If only she could see me now.
God, that's so regressive, isn't it?
Yeah, really backwards.
To
way of
think,
thinking.
I suppose what we're talking, like 30-ish, we won't go too exact with the figure, that's about
Yeah.
30 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Mary, for that 30 years.
That's we've got to admit it. You don't look any different to me. You look fresh as a daisy.
Your hair's a bit blonder, but that's about it.
And yours is a bit redder. So,
Yeah, bit redder.
So, do you think you've got braver as you've got older?
Looking back, I think I've always had thoughts that are brave, thoughts that, like, if I say them, I challenge a situation or I challenge discrimination or unfairness. But I feel as I've got older, I'm more inclined to say them. You know, whether that's just HRT, I don't know. But yeah, I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm less inclined to put up with bullshit and just call it out. Whereas younger days, I wouldn't have done that. I'd have kept quiet. Yeah, looking back, I think I was pretty, repressed. I didn't speak my mind as much as maybe I should have done. But yeah.
But that's probably a product of having your communication suppressed by people like the person you've just said, that you were sort of taught not to express yourself or even be able to on an equal footing with other people.
very much. It's very much a thing. I was taught to believe that I'm hearing, and I still see it now in the deaf children that I work with that have hearing families and hearing schools. There's very much this ethos of teach the child that they are hearing, not deaf. And it's something that I really strongly fight against now. I absolutely believe that that should not be the case. The child can have a deaf identity, can succeed with a deaf identity, same as a hearing person. They just need the right support. And quite a lot of my work is focused on that now, which I find really rewarding, because I don't want any deaf child to go through what I went through, even though at the time that was normal, that was life, that was just how it was. And it's shit. It shouldn't be like that.
No, because there's a lot of navel gazing about using the term deaf as opposed to hard of hearing and various other terms. But I think you're very much, no, deaf is a term, we claim it, and it's part of our identity.
It took me a long time to be able to do that. And one of the biggest steps in that was my mum. When I was growing up, she would never say the word deaf, and she would always say partially hard of hearing. And I used to think, well, that doesn't really describe me, and doesn't really give an indication of what I need the other person to do, like face me, speak clearer, all that kind of thing. And Mum saying that I'm partially hard of hearing just means, it felt like it meant just speak a little bit louder, she'll be fine, kind of thing. Anyway, this went on for years and years and years and years. And then when I came back to England and I started working and I started the business, my mum answered the phone. It was a call for me. Obviously, I don't use the phone now. And Mum answered the phone and she was saying, you can't speak to her because she's deaf. And I felt like I'd been punched in the face, and Mum's actually used that word. And anyway, she put the phone down, life carried on, and it was a few days before I could actually say to her, Mum, you said that word. You said the word deaf, and you never said that before. You've always said partially hard of hearing. What is going on? And Mum said, I used to think that being deaf was a bad thing. I used to think it was a flaw. And the way that she'd been taught to by medical experts, teachers of deaf, whatever, as I was growing up, was that deaf is something to be fixed. And she didn't want to think of her daughter being something that needed to be fixed. So she used the other word. But then she said, I see what you're doing and I see what a difference you're trying to make, and I'm really proud that you're deaf. And that was a huge step into accepting, I'm deaf and proud of it.
Wow, yeah, that must have been amazing to hear her say it, but it's obviously what you'd taught her.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those moments that stick with you.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.